Imagine someone intentionally sets your house on fire.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And while the flames are roaring, right, and the smoke is blinding you, and you're just scrambling to save whatever you can.
Right. Total panic.
Exactly. But then this person turns to you and casually asks if you can, like, pay their water bill.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds entirely absurd.
It sounds like a dark comedy, right? But when you step into the world of targeted toxic relationships and, emotional manipulation, it's actually not a joke at all.
Oh, it's not. It's a highly calculated, deeply psychological strategy.
Right.
It is the absolute definition of chaos being weaponized.
Mm.
And what's fascinating here is that the person asking you to pay that water bill, well, they aren't doing it because they actually need the money.
So why are they doing it?
They're doing it to measure exactly how much control they still have over you while your house burns down.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we are opening a fascinating stack of personal notes, text message transcripts, psychological analysis, and philosophical posts to deconstruct a journey of profound personal transformation.
It's a really intense collection of sources.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the psychology of reclaiming your personal sovereignty.
Right, which is huge.
We are going to look at how you survive these toxic attacks, how you recognize and retire the savior complex.
So many people struggle with.
Totally.
Yeah.
And most importantly, how you channel all of that previously wasted emotional energy into building a literal creative empire.
It is one of the most difficult psychological shifts a human being can make, honestly. Yeah, moving from being like a battery that powers someone else's chaos to becoming the architect of your own universe.
I love that framing. And the source material we have today maps out that exact shift through the raw, real-world experience of a man named Mike.
Right, we get to see it unfold in real time.
Exactly. And I want to speak directly to you, the listener, right now, because if you have ever felt completely drained by a one-sided dynamic, or, if you've ever felt that compulsive urge to type out a 3-paragraph text explaining why someone hurt you.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. Only to realize they don't actually care. Well, this deep dive is going to provide some serious paradigm shifts.
Definitely. The data here is just wild.
So let's jump straight into that raw data. The sources give us a direct window into a barrage of text messages sent to Mike by his former partner.
And we should clarify something here.
Yes, for the sake of our analysis today, we are going to refer to this former partner exclusively as a lost soul.
A very fitting title, given the defensive and really chaotic behavior we are about to analyze.
So picture this. Mike is receiving an absolute avalanche of text messages early on a Sunday morning.
The worst way to wake up.
Right. And the details of the attack are highly targeted, but simultaneously they're just completely illogical.
Like, they don't even make sense together.
No, a lost soul attacks his finances, specifically mocking him for using BBV instead of Santander Bank.
Which is just such a strange thing to fixate on.
It really is. And then she attacks his wardrobe, making fun of him for shopping at Primark.
Okay, so she's hitting the practical things, money and clothes.
Yeah, but then comes the ultimate gaslighting. She tries to completely erase their shared history.
Oh,
She
wow.
claims he wasn't her boyfriend.
Wow. Just erasing it completely.
Yeah, she says he was just some guy she, quote, saved. She literally texts, Le salve la vida y ya, which basically translates to, I saved his life and that's it.
That is just a systematic attempt to dismantle his reality.
It's intense.
It is. And notice the projection there, too. She is claiming to be the savior, effectively flipping the narrative to shield herself from any accountability for the breakdown of the relationship.
Right, but here's the bizarre whiplash. The house is on fire, right? She has hurled these emotional hand grenades, tearing down his bank, his clothes, their entire relationship history.
Total destruction mode.
Yes. And immediately after claiming she wants nothing to do with him, a lost soul casually sends another message asking Mike to pay for her pedicure.
The water bill.
Exactly. She says, Tengo que ir hacerme la pedicura cuando me pagas tipcure. Please.
The contradiction is just staggering.
It gives me whiplash just reading it.
I mean, if you look at it through the lens of a healthy, rational relationship, it makes zero sense.
None at all.
But from a psychological standpoint, this behavior is entirely tactical. It isn't random.
So explain that mechanism to me. Why the whiplash? Why hurl insults and then, immediately ask for a financial favor? How does that actually serve her?
Well, it operates on two levels. It's compliance testing and weaponized guilt.
Okay, break that down.
When someone who operates in constant chaos feels they're losing their grip on a partner, especially a partner like Mike, who provided stability and protection, They'll start throwing darts.
Just to see what sticks.
Exactly. The insults about Primark and the bank, those are darts. She is testing to see if Mike will break his silence to defend himself.
Ah, I see.
To a lost soul, even an angry defensive response means she still dictates his emotional state. She still has power over him.
Right, because if I reply and say, "What are you talking about? I have plenty of money," I am playing on her game board.
Exactly. Any reaction is a victory for the person initiating the chaos.
And the pedicure.
The pedicure request is the second part of that mechanism, the baseline check to see if the so-called savior is still conditioned to open his wallet and provide for her, despite the abuse.
That is wild.
Furthermore, she is using this attack to actively evade her own reality. The source notes highlight a crucial context here. She is turning 45, and she is facing her own history and life choices.
Ah, so it's a deflection tactic.
Precisely. If she stops attacking Mike for 5 minutes, the noise stops, and she has to look in the mirror.
And that's too painful.
Yeah, it is significantly easier to paint Mike as the problem, or a charity case she supposedly saved, than to face the reality that she is alienating a steady, protective partner through her own unresolved issues.
So what is the defense against this? Like, if you're Mike and you're reading these texts on a Sunday morning, how do you fight someone who uses your burning house as an opportunity to ask for a favor?
The ultimate tactical response, as outlined in the notes, is one word: nada.
Nothing.
Zero attention. Zero energy. You do not explain, you do not defend, you do not engage.
Just a complete blackout.
Exactly. You draw an absolute physical boundary, which means refusing to ever meet in person again.
Because in-person meetings are where these chaotic loops just restart, right? Like,
Yeah.
the physical proximity triggers the old programming.
Yes, the nervous system remembers the dynamic. If you meet in person, you give them the opportunity to read your micro-expressions,
Right.
to find a new vulnerability, to reset the hook. The defense is absolute silence. You lock down your perimeter.
It's like taking the battery out of a smoke detector.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
You can still see the environment around you, you aren't blind, but you absolutely refuse to let their alarm trigger your nervous system anymore. You're just removing the power source.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You remove the power source, which is your attention.
But I want to push back on this a little bit, or rather, I want to explore the history here.
Sure.
Because if this person is so toxic and the dynamic is clearly this draining, why did someone like Mike, who the sources describe as an honorable protector type, invest so much time, money, and energy in the first place?
That's the big question.
Are certain people just completely incompatible with healthy love?
Well, that is the exact question Carl Jung would want us to ask.
Okay, let's bring Jung into this.
And Jungian psychology gives us a brilliant, albeit challenging, framework for this through the concept of the anima.
The anima.
Yes, the anima is the unconscious feminine archetype within a man's psyche. It represents his deep emotion, his intuition, his capacity for profound connection, and his raw, unbridled creativity.
Okay, let's ground this. How does an internal, unconscious archetype relate to Mike paying for pedicures and getting yelled at about his bank account?
It's all about projection. When a man has a very strong, problem-solving masculine energy, he's a protector, a provider, a knight figure, but he hasn't fully integrated his own internal anima. He subconsciously projects that energy outward.
He looks for it in the external world.
Exactly. Because he isn't channeling his own raw creativity and emotion, he becomes intensely drawn to the archetype of the dragon or the distressed maiden.
Oh, whoa.
He subconsciously seeks out a woman wrapped in chaos because she perfectly embodies that untamed, intense, unpredictable energy he hasn't claimed within his own mind.
So he steps into the dynamic with a massive savior complex. He thinks his job is to slay the dragon.
Yes. He tries to offer stability, resources, and what he perceives as divine love to fix her.
He operates under the illusion like, if I just give enough love, if I'm just patient enough, I can tame this storm.
But because the other person is fundamentally rooted in their own chaos, they cannot be fixed by external stability.
Right, they just consume it.
Eventually, they turn their weapons on the very person trying to protect them. And the protector ends up completely drained.
So, what does this all mean? I have to say, I struggle with this Jungian idea.
How so?
It borders uncomfortably close to victim blaming. Are we saying that because Mike had this unintegrated anima, he was basically asking for this toxic barrage?
Oh, no, not at all.
Did he subconsciously want the chaos?
That is a highly critical distinction to make, and the answer is absolutely no.
Yeah?
He did not want the abuse.
Okay, good.
What his psyche needed was an outlet for all of that unintegrated, intense energy. He needed a mission.
I see.
He needed to engage with the chaotic forces of creation. The mistake, driven by the illusion of the savior complex, was making a lost soul the mission.
Misdirected focus.
Exactly. Projection isn't about desiring harm. It's about a misdirection of internal potential.
So if the problem was misdirected energy, how do you actually fix it?
Well, the solution isn't to say, I'm just incompatible with women, or to avoid all relationships out of bitterness.
Right, that just creates another problem.
The solution is to integrate the anima. You have to take that massive, protective, knight-like energy and turn it inward. You convert the drama into art.
Unpack that mechanism for me. How does a creative project actually solve a psychological projection?
It's all about where the energy flows.
Because the sources detail how Mike needs to channel his intensity into building a creative empire. His vlogs, his music, his content creation. But how does scripting a vlog integrate an unconscious feminine archetype?
Think about what the anima represents. It is the seed of creation.
Right.
It is the part of the psyche that births new ideas, that feels deeply, that navigates the unknown. When you don't use that energy to create your own life, you feel empty.
So you look for a chaotic person to fix as a substitute for creation.
Exactly. It feels like you are doing something profound. But when Mike sits down to write a vlog or compose music or build a media business, he is forcing that creative energy back into his own hands.
He becomes the creator.
He is acting as the creator of his own reality. When he takes the mental bandwidth that used to go into decoding toxic text messages and pours it into broadcasting his own ideas, he becomes his own muse.
That is brilliant.
The anima is integrated because it is finally being utilized for its true purpose creation, not destruction.
That makes incredible sense. You stop trying to build a person and you start building a world.
Beautifully said.
But let's be real for a second. Logically, we can sit here and say, just walk away and make art.
Sure.
Emotionally, though, walking away from a relationship where you've invested your money, your time, and your identity as a protector doesn't feel like a clean, logical pivot.
No, it never does.
The sources actually describe this transition as feeling like a punishment. They use the specific word crucifixion.
Yes, and that is not just dramatic flair. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Carl Jung wrote extensively about the psychological concept of crucifixion.
He did.
Yeah, he didn't see it merely as a punishment for bad choices.
Yeah.
He viewed it as an absolute cosmic necessity for human development and maturity.
And necessity. Being emotionally torn apart by someone you tried to help is a necessity.
To reach the next level of consciousness, yes. Psychological crucifixion is defined as being suspended on a cross between two unresolvable opposites.
Okay, so for Mike, what were those opposites?
On one hand, he had this deep, honorable, perhaps slightly naive desire to be a savior. He wanted to be the loyal protector.
And on the other hand,
He was facing the harsh, toxic, undeniable reality of how he was actually being treated. The insults, the financial manipulation, the gaslighting.
and those two things cannot coexist. You can't be a respected protector to someone who fundamentally disrespects you, so you are just stretched between them.
Exactly. You are pulled between the ideal of who you wanted to be and the nightmare of what is actually happening.
Ouch.
And when the psyche is pulled too tightly between these opposites, the ego reaches a breaking point.
It just snaps.
The version of the ego that believed it could save chaotic people, the ego that tied its entire self-worth to fixing someone else's storm, that ego must die. It collapses under the weight of reality.
Let's ground this high-level philosophy in the mundane. Because ego death isn't some mystical experience on a mountaintop where the clouds part.
Not usually.
In Mike's case, ego death is sitting on your couch on a Sunday morning, reading a text mocking your bank account, feeling every biological instinct scream at you to defend your honor, to text back, to fight, and actively choosing to do absolutely nothing.
Yes.
That silent, burning feeling in your chest where you swallow your pride and let the unfairness just sit there, that is the crucifixion.
That is a phenomenal way to describe it. It is the conscious endurance of the pain without reacting to it. You let the savior identity die in that silence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because in this psychological framework, you don't just stay on the cross.
Right, there is a next step.
The death of that savior ego is the prerequisite for a resurrection.
Jung calls this process individuation.
Individuation. You step down from the cross, But you are not the same person who is put up there.
No, you're changed completely.
You step down as a completely transformed, sovereign individual. The savior complex is retired permanently.
Exactly.
But I find myself wrestling with the aftermath of this. Okay, the savior ego is dead. You step down from the cross. But there's a vacuum there now.
A huge vacuum.
If you aren't the savior fixing everyone's problems, who are you? How do you even make decisions? Because it is so easy to say, I'm a sovereign creator now, but you still have to wake up on a Tuesday and navigate the world.
And this brings us to a beautiful piece of philosophy from the sources, which fills that exact vacuum.
I'm all ears.
There's an image of a quote by a spiritual teacher named Robert Adams, and it essentially provides the operating manual for life after the psychological crucifixion.
What's the core of it?
The core tenet of this philosophy is a three-word realization: I am not the doer.
I am not the doer. If I'm understanding this Robert Adams philosophy, it's almost like resigning from a job as the general manager of the universe.
That is exactly what it is. Adams explains that as long as you believe you are the doer, you are trapped in a state of constant struggle.
We're just fighting everything.
You feel compelled to fight, to compete, to defend your reputation, and to constantly straighten things out. You look at a chaotic partner and think, it is my job to fix this.
Right.
You carry the weight of the world on your shoulders because your ego believes it is the sole engine driving your life.
Which is the exact trap of the savior complex. You think without your intervention, everything falls apart.
Right. But Adams says that as soon as you truly realize, I am not the doer, you understand that a mysterious greater power takes care of the unfolding of life.
How does that apply practically, though?
He points out a very practical reality. You didn't ask to be born. You didn't consciously choose your early circumstances, your genetics, or the beating of your heart, and yet you were provided for.
That's a good point.
The philosophy argues that this same underlying mechanism will put you in your right place, handle your true needs, and guide your trajectory.
So you can just stop.
Therefore, your only actual job is to stop struggling with the external world. Stop trying to micromanage other people's chaos and focus your attention entirely on the self.
Stop struggling with the external world. And what I love about the sources is that we see Mike applying this immediately.
Yes, he puts it right into action.
He doesn't just read the quote and feel enlightened, he implements it. And it's so practical. Focusing on the self doesn't mean isolating in a cave.
No, not at all.
For Mike, it means focusing on his physical health. The notes talk about his daily routine, walking 10,000 steps, eating clean, and putting his energy entirely into his creative content.
This raises an important question, though. Why 10,000 steps?
Yeah, why that specific thing?
It isn't just about cardiovascular fitness. It is a tactical mechanism to clear the mind and ground the body.
Grounding is so important.
When you are recovering from a toxic dynamic, your nervous system is essentially fried. Every single step is a deliberate, physical movement away from the old toxic noise.
I love that.
It is a way of manifesting the Robert Adams philosophy physically. You aren't doing the drama anymore. You are simply walking. You are breathing. You are present.
And it is crucial to note that he isn't doing this out of spite or hatred. The sources are very clear on this distinction.
Yes, that's a key point.
He isn't walking away because he hates women or because he's a bitter victim. He is simply closed for maintenance.
Closed for maintenance, right?
It is a state of high-level boundary management. He can have a polite professional interaction with someone. He can flash what the sources affectionately call his authentic macho smile, but the boundary is impenetrable.
The door is locked.
Exactly. He doesn't let anyone into the engine room anymore.
Because he finally recognizes the value of the engine room. When you are fully consumed by fulfilling your own creative destiny, when you are building your vlogs, your music, your empire, that desperate need for an external partner to validate you, or a chaotic person to give you a mission, completely evaporates.
It just disappears.
You become entirely self-contained. You are sovereign.
So let's take a step back and look at the massive terrain we've covered today.
We've covered a lot.
We really have. We started in the thick of the smoke, the raw, chaotic anatomy of a toxic attack.
The texts.
Right. The targeted insults about Primark and banks, instantly followed by the manipulative compliance test of asking for a pedicure.
The quintessential weaponized whiplash.
From there, we looked under the hood using Jungian psychology to understand why we engage with that chaos.
The anima projection.
Yes. The subconscious drive to project our unintegrated anima, our own unutilized creative power, onto the dragon, leading directly into the trap of the savior complex.
And then the cross.
Right. We explored the agonizing, burning reality of the psychological crucifixion, where that savior ego is stretched between noble ideals and toxic reality until it is forced to die.
And finally, the rebirth.
The rebirth, the individuation process, beautifully supported by the Robert Adams realization that you are not the doer.
It all ties together perfectly.
You drop the illusion of control, you resign as general manager of the universe, you hit your 10,000 steps, and you pour all of that reclaimed energy into your own creative vision.
It is an incredible arc, really. From being a completely drained battery in someone else's nightmare to becoming a self-generating powerhouse in your own reality.
Absolutely.
And if you are listening to this right now, the most vital takeaway is that this framework applies broadly.
It's not just for this one situation.
Whether you are dealing with a toxic romantic dynamic, a manipulative work environment, or even just the overwhelming chaotic noise of modern life, guard your border.
Guard it well.
Keep the windows open so you can still experience the world, still smile, still interact without resentment, but take the battery out of the smoke detector when it comes to their chaos. Protect your energy, because it is the fundamental fuel for your own empire.
I love that. Keep the windows open, but protect your energy. You know, at the very beginning of this deep dive, we talked about how bizarre it is when someone sets your house on fire and asks you to pay their water bill.
Yeah, the dark comedy of it all.
Exactly. We've spent this time dissecting their tactics and our own internal mechanisms for getting trapped in that burning house.
Yeah.
And it leaves me with one final thought.
What's that?
If our chaotic, toxic relationships are essentially just mirrors reflecting our own unintegrated internal energy, our own need to save someone instead of building ourselves, what happens to our perception of the entire world once we finally remove that mirror and realize the only thing left to look at and the only thing left to fix is ourselves?